If the biblical scholars are going to be correct, then you know how we try, how many times it is tried to be said that the Israelites lived at the time of Ramses, correct? You see the Ten Commandments movie, if you haven't read the Bible, and Ramses lived around 1200 BC, 1200 to 1300 BC. And so, if we are to believe the story of the Bible that tells us that the Israelites were slaves and they were led out of Egypt by Moses at about 1200 BC, it clearly conflicts with this Stephen, doesn't it? Because at 1200 BC, the Israelites were subject people who were not even living in Egypt itself. They were foreigners. So how can you be free for something that you're not even captive in? You follow what I'm saying? If the Israelites were captive in Egypt, and they were freed by Moses, and they left Egypt, how are they going to be classified as foreign people who are under the domain of Egypt? If they were free, they wouldn't be under a domain, right? So we have another impossible reference from the Bible. Just if you can read the underlined portion.
If it was the Israelites of the Bible, there was no land of the Israelites, no Jerusalem, and no state of Israel. This means that the Israel is perhaps as a socio-ethnic entity outside of Egypt and under the control of Egypt. So therefore, if they are the Jews of the Bible, they are not in Egypt. And if they left Egypt in some exodus previously, then at this time they would be subject peoples. In any case, this designation does not agree with the Jewish Christian Bible when it says that the Jews were freed from the Egyptians and that the Egyptian God defeated Pharaoh from the army of the Egyptians. In fact, this stellar points to the reverse. The term Hebrew means a member of or descendant from one of a group of northern Semitic peoples, including the Israelites.
So going back to our timeline, if it were also true in the next statement that Moses was learned in the wisdom of the Egyptians and was mighty in words and deeds, there is no record of anyone named Moses in Egypt. We have a record of all the pharaohs, we have a record of the viziers, we have no one with a name that even remotely compares to that one. The only record exists in the Bible itself. If Moses supposedly lived at around 1200 BC, as the biblical scholars say, and he was part of the HUR, again, there's no evidence to show, and also it's impossible because of what we said before. The Israel people were subject peoples who lived in Canaan or Asia Minor. And in our timeline again, here we have 10,000 BC, and here we have 1200, at the time when Moses supposedly lived. If we go again, I don't think I have graphics for it, I think I do later on, to say, as the Bible tells us, that Abraham was the first Jew. And he lived in Asia Minor, and he came into Egypt. And then he left. Or later on, the Jewish people left with Moses, with 600,000 people. Even if we were to believe that, then we would have to say that the ancient Jews were Egyptian people. You follow? The Bible says that Abraham came from Asia Minor, from the land of Ur. They went into Egypt at about 1900 BC. And then at 1200 BC, supposedly Moses takes them out. And when Abraham goes into Egypt, he goes with his family, which may be like about 2 dozen people. When they come out, there's 600,000 people. If we're to believe that, if that was true, then it would mean that the ancient Jews were actually Egyptian people. And we saw what the Egyptian people looked like, right? So the Jews that we know today, or European Jews, did not exist in ancient times. Right? But if we were to consider them as a kind of ethnic group, then we could consider that the religion of Judaism is not a racial term, right? Most times we think of Jews, we saw them on the way walking with their nice hats and their long beards and everything. That's just one sect of Judaism. But it always thinks, when I think about it, I think about Samuel David Jr. when he turned to Judaism, everybody's like, are you crazy? How can you be a Jew? You're not even white. Judaism is a religion. Judaism is not a racial designation. In fact, there's no such thing as race. There's only one human race, human being. So we have to correct many misconceptions on the way to discovering the answer to this question on the origins of the world religion. Okay? Go ahead. We have another graphic. This is showing where Moses was supposed to come in, as we said, the 1200 BC. Mm-hmm. This is a little graphic. It's too bad you don't have the color. This is actually one of the early ancient Egyptian tomb reliefs that show Asiatic. And it shows these people here are the Asiatics, and they're coming to bring tribute to the ancient Egyptians, and you can see them here. And this confirms the subject nature of the Asiatic peoples. They were under the control of the ancient Egyptians. The Egyptian empire was vast. Now, here we come to some interesting dichotomy, I guess might be a good term. The ancient or the early Jews, when there was a period in ancient Egypt at about 450 BC when the Persians, the Assyrians were trying to conquer Egypt. The Persians and Assyrians were Asiatic peoples, or peoples from Asian land, for the land that they call Middle East. They were trying to come into Africa and trying to conquer the Egyptians. They tried for hundreds of years. At about 450 BC, they succeeded temporarily. And at that time, Jews came into Egypt with them. And they were living in southern Egypt, in the area called El-Fatim or Aswan, today known as Aswan. Now, at this time, in 450 BC, those Jews believed that their God Yahweh, or was actually called Yahweh, and he originated in El-Fatim. El-Fatim is ancient Egyptian city of Aswan. They call Aswan, right? The god of El-Fatim was known as Khnum, and here he is pictured. Khnum is also known as the potter. He is the fashioner. He is the creator. He is the one who turns the undifferentiated primeval waters into the forms of creation. And he gives people's bodies shapes. So what this is saying is that the ancient Jews believed that their God came from where? Egypt.